Hello, welcome to Ask the Doc podcast. This is Dr. Sanchez. I'm a family medicine doctor who really cares about educating people about issues that you care about. And so you go ahead and just send me a message through either the podcast or through like a message through there, or you can send it through the Medici app, and that's Medici. You can find it on your app store and download it and submit questions through there and ask me things that are of concern. This podcast was started out of inspiration from the coronavirus. People were in lockdown, and we really needed some information about how to overcome coronavirus. And so much of the reason why I started this podcast was really for that, and to have another avenue and outlet for people to listen to information that would help them not only overcome the coronavirus, but also just to live a healthier life just overall. So today, I really want to spend some time about the intermittent fasting diet. And I had gone over a lot of what's called the plant-based diet, so that's really helpful. And to zoom back out a little bit as a pretense as to why we should be talking about diets during this pandemic. And one of the things that I've been telling people is that if there's ever a time for us to be the healthiest in our lives, it's right now. Like today is the day for us to be the healthiest we've ever been, because sadly, this coronavirus really picks on those who are unhealthy. And a lot of us really struggle with weight issues, obesity specifically, and that people who struggle with obesity, not only do they have diabetes, hypertension, but just obesity by itself, or regardless of whether there's any underlying chronic lung disease or heart disease, or regardless of whether there's diabetes or not, that by itself being heavy is a risk factor for not surviving from coronavirus, from dying from coronavirus, which is a huge deal. And if we can actually change that and to modify that, then I think that we can really have a fighting chance of overcoming the coronavirus if we were to come in contact with it. So much of what I'm saying right now is that if there's ever a time in our lives to be the healthiest we've ever been, the time is today. Today is the time that we cannot wait and just somehow in the future of like, oh, when this happens, when I change my job, then I will be healthy. Or there's always some kind of like reason to put that off. And when that time comes, then we just don't make the decision to do it, and we continue with our old bad habits. And so part of that process is going to be changing how we eat, and specifically with the intermittent fasting, and so this so I would say that with my own personal journey, I've taken on fasting for religious reasons in the past, and not for weight loss specifically. It just happened as a consequence of just eating less, and the concerns for a lot of people is this a safe way to do it? Well, I decided to start it on my own. It wasn't, so this time around, it's not for like religious reasons. It's really for health reasons. And it really is in contrast to what we were taught as kids and like a lot of the information that we were told just growing up, and even for healthy life, right? So you've heard a lot of people say, well, the secrets to eating having a healthy diet is that you would eat multiple times a day, and that you would not skip breakfast, and that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and to have multiple meals throughout the day. And so that's what we were taught. And what may be the case is that we were wrong, or we were lied to at least. And could that be the case? Could that have been the situation? And so now with partial fasting, so what I do is I skip breakfast, I skip lunch, and I may or may not have like a snack late in the afternoon, and then I'll have like one meal. I'll have like dinner with the family, and then before bedtime, I'll have like a snack. And in that one meal, it's very important what we eat, and it's intermittent fasting is not enough if we are skipping breakfast, lunch, and then we go to Taco Bell or we go to McDonald's, or that's like we just eat one time a day and I just have a pizza. That is not enough. In fact, that could be counterconstructive. It could be very bad for you, in fact. And so, because when you start eating, then it starts to raise your insulin levels, your natural insulin levels. And if we're putting processed fats in our bodies, or animal fats, processed fats, complex carbohydrates that are processed, then it converts that straight into fats, and we don't need that. But so do not do that at all. But if you combine both a plant-based diet, which is like my favorite, which is very similar to the Mediterranean diet. That is my absolute favorite, is plant-based for a lot of different reasons. If you take that and you combine it with the intermittent fasting diet, then it's a beautiful thing to do. So the way that it works is that, so I skip breakfast, I skip lunch, I may or may not have some fruit, and we'll talk about fruit here in a little bit. Ideally, like for a snack, if you want to do a late afternoon snack, you would do like a handful of walnuts or almonds. And then for dinner, you have a very healthy plant-based dinner. And that could look different things, right? It could be like on a plate of food, it can be like half the plate is like some type of vegetables, whether it's like steamed vegetables, boiled vegetables, whether it's broiled, which is my personal favorite. It is all beautiful, right? So just add some olive oil, extra virgin preferably, and you do half your plate with vegetables. And then the other half is going to be, well, like you just do a quarter of your carbohydrates, which is going to be like brown rice, okay? Not processed white rice, but brown rice. Or you can have like wheat pasta, like a small portion, like a quarter of a plate. And then your last quarter is going to be your protein, which is going to be baked chicken, baked turkey, baked fish. And try to avoid the red meats. And I tell people like beef and pork twice a month. Not every day, and definitely not like the barbecue with the beer after football, right? So like that's not what you got to do. And this is like 7 days, right? Straight 7 days. And so another option for that one meal for dinner is going to be like a nice healthy salad. I'm going to tell you how to do salads poorly, and don't do it this way. So like when you have people use iceberg lettuce and they put croutons and bacon bits and cheese, and they put ranch dressing, or they put like Thousand Island, and they think that's like, oh, that's healthy. No, do not do that. That is so bad for you. So a healthy salad is going to be like mixed greens, like really beautiful greens, and then adding whatever vegetable you want, whether it's tomatoes and carrots. I put in some nuts, some like pecans or walnuts, and then I put just a small amount of feta cheese. And then I drizzle olive oil on there. And if you want like baked chicken in there, then sure, put like cut in like half a piece of breast and like cut it up in pieces and throw it in there. Fantastic. And that is your one meal a day. And then before bedtime, get yourself like a bowl of sugar-free oatmeal. And you can do, what I love with my oatmeal is almond milk. And it has like a vanilla flavor to it. And it's great, like just like that. I just put it in there, put it in the microwave, or sometimes I add a little bit of honey, and I'll add some walnuts, and maybe I'll add some blueberries to it, and it helps with like the night before bedtime hunger. And you do it over again in the morning, so no breakfast, no lunch, and then like go even without a snack, maybe, right? So like if you want to do a snack and you're like, oh, I really need something to eat, I'm so hungry, then sure, get some like high protein like almonds and walnuts. You can do peanuts are okay, but the problem with these nuts is that you have to get salt free, not lightly salted. Don't do that. That's going to retain your water, right? You're going to have like swollen legs because of the salt that's on there. And definitely don't do the M&M like trail mix. I mean, that is a no-go. Do not do that. And then you just do this process, and I've been telling people to do it like 7 days on, where they're like that, they just eat one meal a day. And then 7 days, not 7 days off per se, but like you give yourself a little bit of break. You eat like a healthy breakfast. You eat like Cheerios, not the Honey Nut Cheerios, but you eat Cheerios for breakfast with maybe some eggs. No sausages, no bacon for breakfast. That is really bad for you. And then like for lunch, you'll have like leftovers from the night before, or if you have a healthy salad. And then for dinner, you just, again, have like a plate of like baked fish, like salmon with some brown rice, and then like some steamed vegetables. So that's like your 7 days on, 7 days off. I picked 7 as a like an arbitrary number, as a goal to get to at least. And so like if you want to like do like start off with like 1 day of intermittent fasting, and then, or you want to alternate, right? So you say 1 day on, 1 day off, and then you work towards like, okay, let me do 2 days on, 1 day off. And then you work eventually to go like 3 days on, 1 day off, and then 4 days on. And eventually you do like 7 days where you're like continuously doing intermittent fasting, and then the 7 days off after that. And if it's not like bad to have this as a continual lifestyle. You don't have to have the 7 days off. It's just like it just allows people the chance to like switch things up a bit, And so now, who is this bad for? Like, when would you like not do the intermittent fasting? And so the intermittent fasting would not be recommended for people who are elderly, because the elderly, particularly if they're like in a wheelchair and they're not getting around much. I mean, they don't eat much to begin with, and so they really need the nutrition because they're not getting adequate calories. People that are pregnant, people who are on insulin, it can be very difficult to do intermittent fasting if you're on insulin, particularly if you're type 1 and you have like an insulin pump. That's about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot else out there. I mean, there's some rare things, but like, there's not a whole lot else out there, that would preclude you from doing the intermittent fasting. And so I think it's great. So what I have, done is not only have I done that, but I've also incorporated like, my exercise routine, and often for people who are just starting, I focus on food. I say, don't worry about exercise until you've really got this eating healthy down for about a good like month or two, and then after 2 months, then focus on exercise, and because it's pretty hard to do intermittent fasting and then exercise all at once. I mean, it's very, very hard. And so, I mean, I've been doing this now for a few months. And what I've been doing now is I've been bike riding, and it has been a wonderful experience. So like not everybody has the infrastructure in their city to do to safely bike from home to work. But I mean, that was the case for us for a long time. Like, we lived in South College Station. The infrastructure there is horrible with bike lanes, absolutely awful. In order, like, for me to get from home to work, it just was I'd have to get on the access road. It's great for like joy rides. I mean, there's a few places you can do joy rides, but like practically as a form of transportation, College Station is the worst in that regard. Brian has a good stretch of a wide sidewalk on Boonville Drive, and I've been eyeing that sidewalk for a long time, and I've thought like, I've tried to figure out any way from South College Station to get to that sidewalk, and I just couldn't. I'd have to get to some dangerous road where they're like going 70 miles per hour with like a shoulder that's very narrow, or I'd have to get on the access road, and that's like really bad for safety. And so I'm like, man, I want to bike to work and use a bicycle. So we moved. We sold our house and we moved to Bryan, really partly because I wanted to be able to do that. And so I have been bicycling it's a 20 minutes bike ride. Well, it used to be 30 minutes because I was slower. I've gotten faster as I've been doing this. And it's been a wonderful experience. I cannot tell you like how good I feel. And I had a friend a long time ago who told me that, and I was like, that's okay, that's cool, that's weird, but like he was a teacher and he would bike to work. And so he told me like, I don't care if I'm sweaty if I get to work. I mean, the students will just have to put up with me. This is a guy, he doesn't really care. So I was like, hey, I'm for that. I'm all about like, allowing us to like socially accept people who are sweating. Like, oh my goodness, you exercise. I do not condone that. I mean, like, why do we do that? Why do we look down on people that are sweating? I'm like, they did a great job. They just exercise. I mean, like, it's better than like what most of us are doing, which is not exercising. I think that it's a badge of honor to be like sweating, So I was ready. I was like, hey, I'm gonna. It's my badge of honor. I'll bring some extra clothes if I needs to. And I was expecting to like be really sweaty. And what I found out, and this is the middle of the summer, by the way, in Texas, it gets to like 98, 100, 105 degrees. And in the mornings it's great, 75 degrees in the mornings, like 80 degrees almost. And then around 6:30 it gets to about 105 to 100. And so I was like, I'm just gonna sweat it out. What the weirdest thing is that like I was barely sweating at all. I barely broke a sweat, and I was going pretty decent speed, at least I thought. And it was like, I'm not sweating as much as I thought I was. I thought I'd be drenched in sweats. I thought I'd be like having heat exhaustion or something. I drank a lot of water prior, and I thought like, okay, but like the wind you create, and people who ride motorcycles can testify this, that even the heat of the summer, that if you're going at a decent speed and the wind you create cools you off and you don't even feel it as much, like at all sometimes. I mean, I get home, I'm like, do I have any sweat at all? And it's really not that, it's not bad at all. And I've had other people tell me that. I had a colleague tell me that when she had ridden her bike during the summer, it's not that bad at all. And my wife was like, how is that possible? You're never going to get me on a bike. I'm like, I don't know. I was like, well, I don't know. Let me try it. And it was awesome. Like, you're not sweating at all. And it's one of the best antidepressants I've ever been on. During the coronavirus, it's been depressing, to be honest with you. It's been so depressing to have to socially distance and not being able to see people the way that we once did. I mean, we're isolated socially. It's not good for us. It's not healthy. I mean, all of it's not healthy. And I've tried different antidepressants before. I mean, I'll be open and tell people about that. And nothing really has been as effective as getting on a bicycle and riding a bike 20 minutes to work and 20 minutes back to home. And so I'm like, why aren't more people doing this? I'm saving money, right? Because I'm not burning gas. Like I'm not having to. And when my car breaks down, like it costs like what, $500 to $1,000 to $2,000 to fix a car. But if a bike breaks down, it's like $100 maybe, and you can fix it yourself if you want to, right? It is. The tires are a lot more affordable. I mean, it's economically a wonderful thing to do, to get a bike and to use it instead of using a car. You lose weight because of it. I think I lost like 10 pounds just within the past 2 months just by riding to work. And like it's definitely like the best mental health thing. I mean, I've exercised before. I've done treadmills. I've done all sorts of different things. I've lifted weights. But like biking to work and being out in nature outside, it's like, it's different. I can't tell you how different it is. It just is. I'm not spending money on a gym membership. I'm not having to like be disciplined because it's just part of my routine. And if I sell my car, right, which I'm planning on doing, then I don't have a choice. Then I have to be physically active. When you don't have a choice and you put yourself in that situation of like I have no choice, I have no car, I'm going to get to work by and see, the thing that allowed us to do it is that we were willing to uproot ourselves and move. And we moved for other reasons too. It wasn't necessarily just for that. I think we were just paying way too much in mortgage at where we're at in South College Station. It's very expensive to live in South College Station. I'm not sure why people live down there. The houses are big and our neighbors don't talk to each other as much. And so we're all very isolated as it is. And so like biking to work and then you do that combination, right? You do the you bike to work or you bicycle more. Even if you like, you're not ready for that and you're like, well, I can't make the big move. I don't know. I'm not ready for that. Then just get a bike first of all and just ride it first thing in the morning. It's a nice, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's a nice, like 70 degrees, and just do that. And then slowly make the change to where that might be an option for you to like research the city's roads, or even going beyond that, like really giving the city a hard time as to why we don't have better bike infrastructure. Like why are bicyclists considered second-rate citizens? Motorists don't obey the traffic laws either, and yet like we never tell them to say, well, we need to take away our car lanes away from people because they're not obeying the traffic laws. So like you can't use that as a justification for not funding quality infrastructure, like separated bike lanes. I mean that would be my dream, to like have a city that is actually healthy, because we all bike, just around and et cetera. So you do that, with like the intermittent fasting. Those two things can transform your life. And, there's a risk in young people of getting hypoglycemic. So like if you're very active and you eat less, there is a risk of there having some like low blood sugar, right? So if you for younger people, you kind of have to like bring snacks along. Like if that happens, then like, okay, then have yourself like eat something, right? Almonds, an apple would raise your blood sugar pretty quickly. You can have that in your bag. And I'm telling you that like this is I'm getting to a point where I am actually one of the healthiest times I've ever been in my entire life, particularly like mentally. And that's saying a lot, considering the fact that we're in a pandemic and that I lost a loved one recently, and considering the circumstances that has occurred. It's amazing to actually feel this way mentally and to have my mood like focus is better, like I can have the energy again, and it is awesome, And so when you get to that point, you're like, I don't want to go back. Like, why would I want to put crap in my mouth and for me to feel bad, to have that like fried chicken. Oh, it tastes good. People say, oh, it's so good. But you feel like crap afterwards, and you feel so tired, and you don't sleep well, and you're like, was it worth it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not worth it. And the funny thing is that over time, which is hard to believe, but your taste buds change to the point where you no longer like that stuff, like the greasy brisket. Like I can't handle it. My wife, she's done a great job with eating plant-based diet. And then one time she decided that she wanted to get some greasy ribs for some random reason, and she was nauseous. It was just like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And we have been away from really heavy foods for so long that we just don't want that anymore. Like we just don't want it. And and I wish that we would all do this, because can you imagine if like every American did like some form of intermittent fasting with plant-based diet, and if they like rode their bike to work? Can you imagine like if every American did that? And so there are those who will say, well, not everybody can do it because of X, Y, and Z. People say, well, I can't do it because of my back or other reasons for my knees. Or balance, etc. There are really wonderful bikes out there. There's like these tricycles. They're for older people who have balance problems. I've seen a recumbent bike where this guy was like laying on his back and he's bicycling. There are ways to do it, but we just gotta make sure it's like, okay, we just can't. Are we saying we can't do it because we have a physical impairment? Because if that's the case, then yes, I get it. But are we saying that because we're just lazy, and because we don't have anybody to push us, and we don't have the support? And is that what's going on? Then if that's the case, then get your butt off the couch, and like this is the time of all times for us to be the healthiest we've ever been in our entire lives, because it might actually be a difference between life and death. And I'm sorry that that might sound harsh, but it's true. It is so true. We've had about 160,000 people die in the United States over the span of several months from coronavirus, and not all of them are because of obesity. A lot of it's because they've had chronic lung disease and there's nothing they can do about it. And it's so sad to see that. But for a lot of us that are like, we there's no excuse, it's like for those who do not have an excuse. And I get the whole, like, I work a lot and I got to take care of my kids and yeah, I mean, like, I get it too, like I work a lot too. I'm a physician, I've got 3 little kids, like a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and my wife is wonderful and we work together on all this. And that helps for sure. We take turns. I think like the hardest part is to be like the single mom who works full-time jobs, like 2 full-time jobs. I think that like that is really hard because you can't really like change. You can't really like somebody has to watch the kids. Like with my wife and I, we can like, I can stay home and she can go exercise and then we like take turns. But if you have somebody you can do that with, like say that maybe like the grandma can maybe watch the kids, which really sucks because we have to do social distancing and I don't know how that works. And so that the group of people that I really, really feel for is like the single mother. All you guys out there, the men, no excuse, right? So, so don't be lazy. You can do this. You'll be awesome. You will feel wonderful. Your energy will come back. All the things that you want, the energy, the focus, the mood with improved mood, with a lack of depression, lack of anxiety, to sleep better at nighttime. All those things that you really, really hope to have is possible. I've lived that life of having like not that energy and not sleeping well and etc. But like you can do this. And so anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic day and that you keep staying safe. 6 feet distancing works. Masks are fantastic. Vaccines are a gift from God. And do all these things, hand washing and just being smart about things and reasonable. So let's just do this and we'll just get this COVID thing over with. Let's just like do it right. Let's just kind of put up with whatever we need to do in the meantime, with coronavirus precautions and just get over this coronavirus as soon as possible. And so that's my thoughts, and send me messages, on my way, just along the way, and give me some ideas. And, hopefully I can help you guys out. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.